Okay, so welcome back officially to both of you. Nice to have you. A really good expression session. Hope you enjoyed as much as I did. So
Yeah,
let's jump straight into our email today. The daily inspirational quote is a lesson involved in that. Daily lesson, and that'll lead us nicely into today's workbook lesson. That's what I'm trying to say. So here we go. Let me just share my screen. And that one, we want that one. There we go. Okay, so if you can read that, maybe Kim, read the headline quote from Carl Jung to kick it off.
people will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious.
Hmm. Very profound quote. And there you see a
Yeah,
photo. This is a transvestite painting himself up for a performance. And what it symbolizes really is just the appearance of the world. Okay, well, I'm going to spend all this time and energy on my appearance, on this identity that I think I have, and doing all these really quite ridiculous things, no matter how absurd, as he points out, in order to avoid facing their own souls. Because beyond the appearance, beyond the personal identity, the persona, the mask that literally this guy's putting on is his true self, which he's avoiding by doing all of this. No doubt, I'm sure he had his lessons. Everyone does, but we spend so much of our time in this world avoiding our souls, avoiding coming face to face with the darkness. This is why people don't do it. So, well, why wouldn't anyone just want the light? Because in order to go to the light, you must make the darkness conscious. It has to come up. You have to become aware of it, and it's not nice. It's not pretty in there. It can feel awful, and the experiences that it can engender can be pretty horrific. And so no one wants to face that. So then we distract ourselves, and we do all kinds of things to avoid making the darkness conscious. But that's the only way out of the dream. That's the only way to the light. You don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light. So you might go, those figures are angels or ascended masters or whatever your particular belief is, and somehow there's salvation in those. But actually, you get there by making your own darkness conscious, bring it into awareness, and then looking at it and letting it go, recognizing that that darkness or limited awareness, as we translate it, isn't real. So Carl Jung was one of the most enlightened psychologists, possibly the most who's ever lived, because he understood this. He was describing the methodology, the transformation process through which Yeshua guides us in A Course in Miracles extremely well. He got it. He understood that this is how it works. So Carl Jung and Yeshua are saying exactly the same thing. You will never awaken from the dream, become enlightened, or find salvation, as Yeshua calls it in today's workbook lesson, unless you're willing to face the darkness of the ego's thoughts and emotions and let them go. And so he calls this process forgiveness or at-one-ment in A Course in Miracles. I prefer calling it letting go or awakening, because these phrases are not as open to misinterpretation as the words forgiveness and at-one-ment, which have been used to describe the opposite way of thinking from the radical forgiveness that Yeshua advocates in A Course in Miracles. So use language that's helpful. That's the whole idea of translating the course. So atonement, and I'll say it like that because that's the traditional interpretation and meaning, as defined in traditional Christian theology, is the reparation or expiation for sin and the reconciliation of God and mankind through Jesus Christ. Right? That's the official kind of dictionary definition of this word of atonement. And apparently in this belief, because that's all it is, he apparently died as part of this expiation process. So something had to die, to suffer and die, in order for our sins to be removed. That's the teaching. So our collective sins will be removed by this one sacrifice of the only Son of God who must die for our sins, so we can be reunited with God through the sacrifice. That's the traditional Christian teaching, isn't it? But it's just a misinterpretation and a clear contradiction of the true teachings of Yeshua and Course in Miracles that are well summarized in this quote from the first insert in part 2 of the workbook called What is Forgiveness? So Elaine, if you can read that.
Forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. It does not pardon sins and make them real. It sees there was no sin, and in that view are all your sins forgiven.
In that view are all your sins forgiven. So it never really happened. Your sins are forgiven, never really happened. Doesn't pardon sins and make them real. It sees there was no sin. In that view, all your sins forgiven. Completely different from the traditional version of atonement, isn't it? Sin is real, and in order to somehow reconcile God with mankind, someone had to die for the sins that are real. Totally different from this understanding that sin just isn't real. So through these words, Yeshua is teaching us that there is no sin. So the idea of atoning for sins, which makes sins real and then tries to expiate or pardon them, must be false if this is true. So it's one or the other. You can't have sin and also have no sin. It's one or the other. The realities don't mix. He also teaches us that true forgiveness is to overlook any apparent sins completely, rather than making them real in your mind and then trying to pardon them. This again contrasts with the more conventional definition of to forgive, which according to Oxford Dictionary is to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. Okay, so yeah, there's apparently an offense, there's a flaw, there's a mistake, and you must now stop feeling your resentment towards it. So by conventional definition then, to forgive, you must first acknowledge the offense, the flaw, the mistake. You acknowledge it as such, you bring it into awareness, and because it's a flaw or mistake, you tend to have a grievance because you see it as wrong if it's a mistake. Then somehow you stop feeling angry and resentful towards the person. That's traditional interpretation of forgiveness. But how does one accomplish this if you've made the offense real in your perception already? And this is why people struggle with forgiveness, because this is what they do. They're using the ego's plan for forgiveness. That doesn't work. Because once you've made the offense real in your mind, it becomes impossible to fully let it go. The best the ego, which remember is just your belief in separation, can do is what I call compassionate or mock forgiveness. That involves trying to understand why a person may have done what they did, and through this understanding then softening your judgment. Okay, well, they had a tough life. They were under difficult circumstances. They were extremely stressed. And so, they did this thing or didn't do something. And, that mitigates the judgment. So I can't be as harsh towards them because of the circumstances. But the problem is it's all very real. You're just trying to mitigate circumstances in a dream. So this is certainly better than not trying to forgive at all, but it falls well short of the full release and freedom that the radical forgiveness Yeshua teaches in the Course in Miracles brings. After all, if you can really accept that nothing ever really happened, then your state of perfect oneness or pure formless awareness has never been disturbed, and you must experience what Paul called the peace of God that surpasses all understanding in the Gospel of Philippians, related to the Philippians they wrote. So this understanding that Paul refers to is the understanding of the ego belief in separation, that by definition cannot understand pure formless awareness of perfect love, right? Surpasses all understanding, the understanding of the ego, because it cannot understand that because it is denied it in order to have some kind of existence. So of course it can't understand it, because if it understood it, it wouldn't exist. You see the dilemma. That's why you'll never understand the truth from the ego's perspective, because it can't understand it. So you're starting to see the integral connection between radical forgiveness as Yeshua teaches it, and realizing the truth of his metaphysical teachings, that the world is an illusion projected by the ego, which is just your belief in separation and a separate self through which it operates. And you're also starting to see that radically forgiving or letting go, as he suggests you do, is the only way you're ever going to experience true and lasting peace of mind. Right? Is there any other way? Saying, no, there's no other way. Forgiveness is the only way. Now, that forgiveness can happen in different ways. You can, learn to meditate, and that can help you forgive. You could do breath work that could learn to help you forgive. You could practice the course lessons that could help you let go. There's many techniques that will help you do forgiveness or true letting go. But in the end, it's all the same outcome. You want to just let go of whatever's negative. So as he says in a recent workbook lesson, there is no other way to be happy. This is really the only way. Then wouldn't you want to dedicate the rest of your life to mastering this one essential skill of radically forgiving or letting go of everything that disturbs your peace? If you really understand, there's no other way. This is all you want, right? All I want is heaven. There's no other way. Then I would dedicate all my time and energy in this world to mastering this one essential skill, which is radical forgiveness or letting go. That's the way out of the whole dream. So the logic of Yeshua's argument, related motivation to apply ourselves to learning to forgive or let go of all our negative thoughts and emotions, is as flawless as the pure formless awareness of perfect love it leads us to experience. But you may still find yourself resisting it, even though on a logical level it makes sense. This is normal because the ego or separate self is very deep-seated in most people's psyche, and so it requires a lot of mind training to stop believing it. But every time you do forgive or let go of any negative thought or emotion, you're correcting your mind and accepting pure formless awareness of perfect love that you really are a little more. So these corrections are the miracles of ACIM's title, and they lead to surrender, release, and acceptance as the results have been called in various spiritual teaching. But whatever you choose to call it, the process of forgiveness or at-one-ment remains essentially the same across all these seemingly different spiritual paths. So if the answer to all my imagined problems is so clear, why do I still resist forgiving or letting go of my negative thoughts and emotions, you may well ask. Now, as I said, these come from a deep-seated belief in separation and the separate self that is its logical outcome, which is what you think you are. Therefore, radically forgiving or letting go is terrifying for this little self or ego because it ceases to exist when you've really let go of all your negative thoughts and emotions. It's being made up solely of these. Yeshua calls a deep realization of the non-existence of the ego and the sole existence of God, as he calls it in A Course in Miracles, what we call pure formless awareness of perfect love in our alternative language, salvation or at-one-ment in A Course in Miracles, process and state which is known as enlightenment or awakening in other spiritual traditions. So there you have an overview of the meaning of some of the key terms used in the Course in Miracles, how understanding them will help you to free your mind from all darkness, as we translate it into alternative language, limited awareness. And then I've given you the glossary. You can link to the course manual on pages starts on page 13, I think. Page 13, page 12 is it? Yeah, page 13. There's a whole glossary of terms. If you want to really go and look at these, make some interesting reading, and every term, key terms are all reinterpreted there for you to help you to, again, just understand them on a deeper level. So that brings us to today's session, to discussion on this. So any comments or thoughts or questions on any of that teaching? I know, Elaine, we've looked at this before, compassionate versus radical forgiveness. But it needs to, I think it can be repeated many times, because we tend to go to the compassionate forgiveness.
That's right.
Okay, so I'll make it real, and I'll try and mitigate it in my mind, and I'll try and soften my judgment, but I'm still making it real. This is the problem. This is the ego's plan for forgiveness. You made it real, and now somehow you've got to let it go. But if you've made it real, how can you let it go? Because apparently it's really happened, and then all you're trying to do is mitigate the consequences and somehow soften your judgment, which is the halfway house of compassionate forgiveness. But radical forgiveness takes a different premise and says, no, none of it was ever real. So you make the darkness conscious, as Carl Jung suggests and as Yeshua is suggesting, but only to immediately say, but that isn't real. Right? So I'm aware of those thoughts and emotions, but what is aware of them is not them. Therefore, these cannot be real from the perspective of this true awareness at all. They are just delusions. And then from the start, from that initial, okay, it's coming up, I'm experiencing it, but I'm experiencing it from the perspective of my true awareness, which knows that none of these things are real. That the thoughts and emotions that I'm experiencing, which may seem to be very real and strong, actually, they're not real. And that's the radical forgiveness, because that goes to the very root of the issue, which is the seeming reality of the thought system of the ego: sin, guilt, fear, attack, and this world that perpetuates it. That's the core issue, isn't it? That's what you've got to look at and go, no, actually, in truth, it's not real. And it never has been real. Okay, so any thoughts? Kim, I'm not sure we've done a session. I've done a session maybe way back in the Art of Go course when you did it last year or the year before. We did cover this, but any thoughts or questions on compassionate or mock forgiveness versus radical forgiveness?
No, I think it's come up in a number of sessions, because of it's come up with the quotes in a day, and you have put, I've seen it
I repeated a few times in
yeah.
the 1 year program, because these are important ideas. And the ego's plan for forgiveness, because it always has some alternative plan, can seem to be something that's attractive and that could work, but compassionate forgiveness will never work to fully release you, because it's still the world, and therefore your separate self operating in the world, is still real. So in compassion forgiveness, it's really happened to you, apparently, but you can go, well, I don't have to judge that person as much. I can soften my judgment because I understand they had a tough life. They're just dealing with their own issues. They had a bad childhood and whatever. But that hurt is still going to be there in your mind, because it really happened, you see. So there's no full release in compassion or mock forgiveness. It's very much a compromise approach in a halfway house. Whereas the radical forgiveness just from the start says, no, yes, you bring it up, the darkness comes up, but then from the start you correct it. You say, no, this isn't real. None of the darkness is real. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
not easy to do, but then you're kind of cutting the right analogy would be you pulling up the weed by its roots. The weed of the ego is believes that you really, things have happened. There really is a separate self, there really is sin and guilt, and everything in the world is real, and then interprets it accordingly. So you got to pull that weed up by its roots and go, no, actually it is all unreal and nothing more. And then there starts to become a way out of that prison that you've constructed in your mind for yourself. Okay, so important teaching, reminder to just practice the radical version, not be tempted by stopping at compassion. It's a halfway house. It's not a bad thing as part of a process, which is why I included as step 5 of the 10-step letting go process, but it doesn't end there. That's just halfway. It's to go the whole way into radical forgiveness, fully letting go, is then full release, and then the dream is done. If you can do that with everything and everyone, then the dream's over. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's have a look then at today's lesson, shall we?
Yeah.
Which is lesson 70. This my salvation comes from me. Lesson 70, my salvation comes from me. Or translated, my freedom comes from me. So let's hear what Yeshua has to say about these ideas. I can't remember his turn to read, so either one of you can read that in the original and the alternative kindly. So we get the translations line by line, sentence by sentence.
Me. Okay. All temptation is nothing more than some. Just looking on my phone here. It's nothing more than some form of the basic temptation not to believe the idea for today. All temptation is nothing more than some form of the basic temptation not to believe the idea today. Salvation seems to come from anywhere except from you. Awakening seems to come from anywhere except from me. So too does a source of guilt. So too does a source of guilt. You see neither guilt nor salvation as in your own mind and nowhere else. I perceive neither guilt nor freedom as in my own mind and nowhere else. When you realize that all guilt is solely an invention of your mind, you also realize that guilt and salvation must be in the same place. When I realize that all guilt is solely an invention of my mind, I also realize that guilt and freedom must be in the same place.
And then from the oh, you haven't finished. In understanding this?
Yeah. In understanding this, you are saved. In understanding this, I am awakened.
And then from the top in the alternative.
All temptation is nothing more than some form of the basic temptation not to believe the idea for today. Awakening seems to come from anywhere except from me. So too does the source of guilt. I perceive neither guilt nor freedom as in my own mind and nowhere else. When I realize that all guilt is solely an invention of my mind, I also realize that the guilt and freedom must be in the same place. And understanding this, I am awakened.
Hmm. And what's he saying?
So we can be tempted not to believe, somehow not to believe the idea that salvation's only possible from me and not anywhere else or anywhere external. That the same source of where we can be saved or awakened is also where the source of guilt. So where we perceive, once we realize that we only perceive that guilt and freedom in our own mind and nowhere else, then it means if you're perceiving guilt in our mind, the same place as a freedom, and we understand this, then we become awakened. So the fact that we perceive it in the same place in the mind, we can become awakened.
Hmm. Yeah. They're in the same place, so it's a choice. We're not outside of it. The ego is telling you it's all outside. Your salvation lies outside of it, in an external person, place, event, circumstance, substance, money, so on and so on. But actually, it's all within you. And the guilt and the freedom lie in the same place in your mind, and you must choose between them. So once you understand that, well, it's a simple choice. Okay, either drop the guilt and the sin and the fear and the attack that goes with it, this whole construct, which I showed you briefly, but I'll go there again. Actually, I haven't done that, sorry, today. I've just showed you this. Yeah, so here's the descent into hell. So this idea of guilt, which is based on sin, that you've apparently done this terrible thing of destroying God, love, oneness, pure formless awareness, and therefore you're guilty, therefore you deserve to be punished. So the fear arises from that, the false expectation of punishment appearing real, concept of a fearful, wrathful, vengeful God. And all of that needs to be deconstructed. All of that is false. Freedom, given to you by the Holy Spirit, is always there in your mind. So while all these things are going on, these apparent thoughts and emotions, the freedom of your true awareness is still there. And freedom lies only in becoming aware of this awareness. That's the teaching. You'll only find that when you reinterpret the dream and you look at all of these projections of the ego, the guilt, the sin, the fear, the attack, accusation, blame, the victim identity, really a disastrous thought system, and see it for what it is, false. Completely false, completely unreal, completely meaningless. None of it means anything. None of it has any value or meaning. Other than that, it's helping you to let go of this false self, the idea that you're a separate self. That's all it's there for. That's the reinterpretation of the ego's dream by the Holy Spirit, which will inevitably return you back to your true awareness, pure formless awareness of perfect love. Okay, so any other thoughts on number one? Should we move on to number two?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. I think Elaine's dropped off. I don't know if she's coming back, so you can read read number 2. Do it in the just in the alternative because there's not much to translate in this one.
Mhm. The seeming cost of accepting today's idea is this. It means that nothing outside myself can free me, and nothing outside myself can give me peace. Only it also means that nothing outside myself can hurt me, disturb my peace, or upset me in any way. Today's idea places me in charge of the universe, where I belong because of what I am. This is not a role that can be partially accepted, and I must surely begin to perceive that. And I must surely begin to perceive that accepting it is awakening.
So what's the only translation there? Salvation is awakening. Yeah. So again, salvation, Christian, it's like, what does it actually mean? It means that you wake up, you awaken to who you really are. That's what it means. Awaken from the dream of being a separate self. So what's he saying in this one in summary?
Um, so we can't rely on anything external to us, our mind, or anything that we can't rely on anything external to give us peace and free us. But that also means that, you know, nothing external can hurt us either.
You see, I mean, the two go together. Okay, nothing outside can save me, can really do anything, but nothing can hurt me. Because what's outside is nothing. It's an illusion.
Yeah.
I can't make this real and say, okay, well, something outside of me can save me and can give me something I want, and then not also invite myself to be hurt and my peace to be disturbed and myself to be continually upset. So the two go hand in hand. That's what he's pointing out. So it's a complete letting go of all desires and expectations, right? Whatever we desire and expect from this world, let all that go, because then you can't be hurt. If you have desires and expectations and you value this world, then guaranteed you will suffer, your peace will be disturbed, you will be upset, because those expectations and desires will be violated. They'll be disappointed. And then apparently you're hurt and the disturbance of your peace is justified. So there's an integral connection between the one is the desire, the expectation he's talking about here in the first paragraph, the first sentence. That you think something outside of you is going to work to help you, to save you. And the second one is the grievance. Okay, well, the problem with desire, as the Buddha noted, is that it's the source of all suffering because it causes endless grievances. Because my expectation is not met, and I have a grievance against so-called reality. And then I suffer accordingly. The more attached I was to what I desired, the more the grievance gets me, the more it makes me suffer. So drop the expectations, you also drop the grievances, but you have to do it entirely, or not at all. You can't say, well, I have a little bit of a desire here and a little bit of a grievance here, but I'm in the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. No, your peace is disturbed, if you're honest. And Yeshua says even a minor irritation is just a cover for intense rage. It's underneath it. So a minor upset, minor irritation is actually going to the very depth of the ego's thought system, which is intense rage. And that entire system has to be let go of. So you have to be very vigilant of this. Okay, I've got to apply this. I've got to apply this very rigorously without making exceptions. If he says, nothing outside myself can give me peace, I must accept that that's exactly what he means. But it also means that nothing outside myself can disturb me, disturb my peace, or upset me in any way. Then he also means exactly that. There's no equivocation or ambiguity here, is there? He's very, very clear. Nothing. That means no thing, no form. No form outside myself, nothing in this world can hurt me, disturb my peace, or upset me in any way.
Yeah.
That's where we're heading. That's what this is saying. Okay.
Okay.
So this gives you power. It places me in charge of the universe where I belong because of what I am. I think we can change universe to reality. The universe, he uses this sporadically through the course. He doesn't mean the physical universe of time and space. Most people would interpret it that he does, but he doesn't. He actually means in charge of the real world, we could call it, where I belong because of what I am. The universe is reality, or maybe reality would be better. Charge of, the real world, where I belong because of what I am. Okay, so the real world is the world interpreted correctly from the perspective of true reality. When he talks about the universe, that's what he means.
Sorry, when he talks about the universe, it means?
When he talks about the universe, he means the universe of truth. In charge of the universe of truth, which encompasses the real world. So just in context, just want to see which is the better translation. Puts me in charge of the universe of truth. No, I think the real world's good there, because when do you redo the real world? So the real world is the world interpreted correctly. It's the world seen as as what it really is, as an illusion, as a dream world.
Okay.
Because of what I truly am. It's not a role that can be partially accepted. I must surely begin to perceive that accepting it is awakening. So it's an all or nothing deal. I must accept this entirely or not at all. And when I accept it fully, then this is my awakening. Okay, so
Okay.
sorry, this is Reed. What's joining us is an AI. Yeah. Whoops. Handled
Yeah, I
accept.
saw that.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's happening here. Bought. Not happy with something. Unhandled exception. I think I've got too many apps going actually. Need to just stop some stuff. Save that. Yeah, let's just go back. Yeah, hopefully we'll be better now. Okay, so number 3. You can read that. I think read it in the original and the alternatives, but to translate there.
It may not, however, be clear to you why the recognition that guilt is in your own mind entails a realization that salvation is there as well. However, it may not be clear to me why the recognition that guilt is in my own mind entails a realization that freedom is there as well. God would not have put the remedy for the sickness where it cannot help. Her formless awareness of perfect love would not have put the remedy for the sickness where it cannot help. That is the way your mind has worked, but hardly his. That is the way my mind has worked, only hardly its.
Yeah, that should be but hardly it's.
He wants you to be healed, so he has kept the source of healing where the need for healing lies. It wants me to be healed, so it has kept the source of healing where the need for healing lies.
And from the top.
However, it may not be clear to me why the recognition that guilt is in my own mind entails realization that freedom is there as well. Pure formless awareness of perfect love would not have put the remedy for the sickness where it cannot help. That is the way my mind has worked, but hardly its. It wants me to be healed, so it has kept the source of healing where the need for healing lies. So it's pointing it to the same place, really. The healing and the problem in the healing is in the same place.
Yeah, exactly. One problem in the mind, the belief in separation. One solution. Let go of that belief, and the healing is there. It's not anywhere outside of you.
Yeah.
Whereas the ego says the answer lies somewhere outside of you. Answer to your problem is in some form of magic solution, whatever that may be. It's invented many, and none of them will work. Because you're not really addressing the problem where it is. You're trying to address it in the externalization of that problem, the projection of that problem in the external world, rather than in your mind, which is where it is. And so what he's pointing out is, well, you've got to look within. So this lesson is saying nothing more what all the great spiritual traditions have said since recorded history, that the answer lies within. The kingdom of heaven lies within. Know thyself. That's the answer. The answer is in your own mind and nowhere else. It takes a lot of learning to realize that, doesn't it? Because the temptation to look outside of us is huge. The world presents all kinds of answers and solutions, apparently, to the made-up problems of the ego. That's why we have, economies. Economics is all about the study of meeting human needs. Hang on, but those needs are made up; they're illusory. Okay, so the whole thing is based on a false premise that you have needs that need to be satisfied, and then there's a whole economy, all this activity to try and meet those illusory needs. And that's the world that we think is real. You see how deep the delusion goes. I mean, it's entrenched in, so deeply entrenched in our world. We're swimming in it. As Morpheus says to Neo, the matrix is everywhere. It's all around you. It's in the room you see. It's in the society, in the taxes you pay, in the church you go to. It's everywhere, and you're so deep in it, like a fish swimming in water. You don't know that it's an illusion. It all seems to be reality. All right, so happy to go to number 4. You've tried to do just the opposite. Just read that in the alternative. The only translation is going to be God's purpose will be perfect love's purpose.
I tried to do just the opposite, making every attempt, however distorted and fantastic it might be, to separate healing from the sickness for which it was intended. And so to keep the sickness, my purpose was to ensure that healing did not occur. Perfect love's purpose is to ensure that it does. So it's just saying, like, from the ego side, it's tried to do the opposite of the salvation. So thinking that this and the healing are separate from each other, but we have to ensure that, well, perfect love's purpose is to ensure that it does occur, so it doesn't keep the sickness. So I think it's best to say separation tries to ensure the healing doesn't happen with the sickness.
Yeah.
Or they're from different sources, or try to look at different sources for it. So it's actually the same source.
Yeah. Well, think of the allopathic medical system. To separate healing from the sickness for which it was intended, and so keep the sickness. So the allopathic medical system doesn't really acknowledge the mind. The mind is primary. Even in psychiatry, the idea is that it's the biochemistry of the brain that's affecting our mental state. So then they try and manipulate the biochemistry of drugs to cause a change. But they're not really recognizing the primacy of the mind, that it's all about your thoughts and your emotions. All of which is really just a defense against the truth that healing is in the mind. You need to change your mind. Fundamentally, no amount of manipulation, whether that's physical or chemical, is going to help you fundamentally change your mind. Only spiritual teachings and practice is going to do that. So we're going to start listening to perfect love and its purpose, which is to heal our minds. And the only true healing is the healing of the idea of separation. That's where healing is. That's where healing lies. It lies in your mind, in the same place where the sickness originated, in your mind. So the mind is the battleground for these two thought systems. On the one hand, you got the pure formless awareness of perfect love, and the remembrance of that, which is the Holy Spirit, which speaks for this pure awareness, unconditional love. That's what we call love in this world. And then the other, you've got the ego, which is the idea that you're a separate self, which speaks for separation and sin, because you've apparently destroyed love. Therefore, you're sinful. Therefore, you're guilty. Therefore, you deserve to be punished. Therefore, attack is justified. Therefore, accusation, blame, and attack are justified because you keep trying to project your guilt outwards. Therefore, believing that you're a victim of a cruel world outside of you, which is just limited, lacking, lonely, you're inevitably going to suffer and die. All of this becomes real. Okay, so those are the systems. Those are the two options. Yeshua's saying, well, you've got to choose. You can't have both of those because they completely contradict each other. So your purpose was to ensure healing did not occur by clinging onto your ego and trying every other way to solve the problems of this world. And that's what we call magic. We invent all kinds of magic solutions in this very complex world that we've created with all these seemingly separate people and moving parts. And we've got all these magic solutions to try and heal and make us feel better. But they don't work because they don't address the real problem, which is the idea that we're a separate self. The idea of separation, we're a separate self. Okay, this is all he's saying. Very simply, very straightforward. So today, we'll carry on number 5, and then we'll go into the meditation to practice this.
Okay. Because I'm like struggling to stay awake. Okay. So I said do both or this
We'll
alternative.
just, given that, we'll just go to the alternative now.
Yeah. Today I practice realizing that perfect love's intention and mine are really the same in this. Perfect love wants me to be healed, and I do not really want to be sick because it makes me unhappy. Therefore, in accepting the idea for today, I'm really in its agreement with perfect love. It does not want me to be sick, neither do I. It wants me to be healed, so do I. But I think it's saying one and the same thing. When I want to be healed and I don't want to be sick, it's the same as source and perfect love wants me to be healed and not to be sick. It's the same thing. Hello?
Yeah. So it
Yeah.
it wants me to heal. That's its only intention.
Yeah.
So when I say, my salvation comes from me, my awakening comes from me, you're really just directing the mind inward and saying it comes from my own mind. I'm not going to find it outside of me. And that, I really want to be healed. Because I'm looking finally for the answer where the answer is. See, the ego's system is ingenious and cunning because it's saying, go look outside for the answer, and you're looking in a place where you'll never find it. So how can you find the answer then if if it's not there? So you're doomed to seek and never find the answer. That's the ego's program. Endlessly seeking for the illusion for the truth, and you'll never find it there because the illusion, the projection, is just a projection of the false idea of separation. Okay? So the idea that projected the whole world is false. How can you find the truth in the projection of the false idea? All you see is the falsity of that idea projected out over and over and over again. So you have to look within. Kingdom of heaven lies within your mind, not outside in any way, shape, or form. So we look at integral model. It's the detachment, the spiritual journey in integral terms is the letting go of your belief in the external world, and therefore of a separate self that has projected the external world. So letting go of all of that and the return to your innocent self, return to the awareness that pre-existed that separate self and the world that it made. And you can only find that inside. It's within you. You're not going to find it in form. You won't find it in the external. You have to look within, which is what every great spiritual tradition has said. Look within. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within. The Buddha said you must look in your own mind. Nirvana is a state of mind primarily. You're going to find it by detaching from the external world through non-attachment, through letting go of your desires and therefore of your aversions. You will come to this awareness. Every great teacher and teaching has said the same thing, and he's just saying it again and saying it so obviously. Okay, I've got to look within, and so therefore I'm facing the darkness. To come back to Carl Jung's point, if I look within, initially I'm going to see the darkness, aren't I? Because that's what's seemingly there, covering over the light. So I've got to make the darkness conscious, bring it into awareness, but then the corrective procedure is not to make that darkness real, to identify it immediately as the unreality that it is, that this isn't true. This is all part of a system. And so I can observe it, knowing that it's not true. And that dissipates the power of it, doesn't it? So like you look at it and you go, it's not true, it kind of sucks the life out of the ego. And it'll come again, maybe, and it tries again, but you just keep zooming out and going, but this isn't true. And it undoes the ego at its core in your mind, which is where it needs to be undone. And then you come into your true awareness, and that gets projected out, that gets extended out, and then you have miracles happening in the dream world that seem to reflect that change of mind. Okay, so let's go back to this.
Sorry, what was the last sentence you said about changing the mind?
What did I just said?
About, yeah, last kind of couple of sentences you said about changing the mind.
Well, I just said you've got to change your mind and go within. There's no other way. You'll never
go within
find
to
the
change the
answer.
mind.
Yeah, you seek not to change the world, says Yeshua. I mean, this is what humanity's been doing forever. We seek to change the world. We make up all kinds of solutions to worldly problems. It's called technology. Oh, now we've got a solution for that and a solution for this. And supposedly we're making progress. This is the illusion that, humanity's made a lot of progress. Look at what you can do now. They've got all this clever technology. You can fly around the world. You even got into outer space. You've gone to the depths of the oceans. You've got all this, clever stuff. You've built cities, feats of engineering. Wow, aren't we amazing? And yet, if you look beneath that veneer, look at all the suffering. Has the suffering gone away? Has sickness gone away? Has death gone away? Nope. They are very, very present in the world. They keep coming. They keep happening. Yeah. So has any of that stuff we've done really solved anything? Has it really helped us? Or is it just the ego seeking for some kind of solution externally when actually the answer is not there? You'll never find it in the external world. As long as you keep seeking it there, you'll never find it. You must look within to find it. That means you've got to let go of your attachment to the external world, the desires, the fears, the expectations, all of it, and really deny the reality of it. So this isn't even real. It's just a projection of my mind, which is false. False mind projects a false world. It's all false. Therefore, I can let it all go safely and return my mind within to the truth of who I really am. That's all he's saying. And that this truth wants to know you. It wants to be known by you see. Because it's your own true awareness. We say wants. I mean, language can't really express it well because it doesn't have desires in the same sense as the ego has desires. But there's a fundamental kind of movement, impulse, we could call it, that this truth wants to become known by you. The truth you're looking for is looking for you. You could say that in that way. And so it doesn't matter what the ego tries, says and does and tries, that truth will always be there. And at some point in your many lifetimes here, it will find you. It's inevitable because it's the truth. You can't destroy it. And when it does find you, that's when your awakening starts. But you can choose to allow it. You can resist it, or you can go, okay, I'm actually really open to this. I'm open to finding this. I'm open to its guidance. I'm open to going within. And the only thing that stops you is that you're scared of really looking at the ego's thought system, at the thoughts and the emotions that make it up, because it's terrifying. It's awful, it's ugly, it's terrifying, you can't. And so you go, no, I can't do this. So I will look somewhere outside. You either look within or you look without. Those are the choices. So then we look outside and we construct a world that apparently is going to give us what we think we want and need in the external world to have some kind of happy life. And it fails us time and time again. Until we realize, look, this is a mug's game. That's never going to work. I've actually just got to stop this entirely, go cold turkey on my addiction to the world, put in another language, and turn within and look for the answer within my own mind. That's the only place I'll find it. And that's what the course is teaching, and that's the lessons are asking us to practice this, because he's saying, okay, I know this isn't just going to happen overnight. It's a practice. So every day you're going to practice a lesson. The lesson is going to help you to detach from the external world and everything it seems to offer, and it's going to help you to accept more and more this inner world, the world of your true awareness, which is always peaceful, happy, loving, and joyful. And it's going to allow you to extend this awareness. That's what we call guidance into the world. And that's what that lesson number, the last lesson 361 to 365 is all about. It's like going within, finding this, and then allowing this to extend through you so that you are guided and you continue to function in the world, but from a different perspective. And that means you've gone up in the scale, you're at a much higher level, and what you will tend to then experience and manifest is on a higher level, which is how miracles work. Because you're operating a higher frequency, the externals change. Okay, sorry, that was quite a long explanation, but hopefully all good. Is that clear? All right, so Kip, shall we do a little meditation to practice this, and then I'll close out the session for maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, just a little while.
Yeah, no, it's getting late for you,
Finished.
so
Yeah.
let's aim to wrap it up by 12:30.
Yeah.
11 your
Okay.
time, and yeah, hopefully it'll be a nice preparation
Thank you.
for sleep.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
so let's do this. What is that? Too many apps open. Okay, cover selected. Okay. All right, so this is a meditation on today's book lesson 70. So just as usual, closing your eyes, sitting comfortably with your feet shoulder width apart, your back straight, cup your hands in the lap, you close your eyes, and take a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, clenching your sphincter muscle, locking the energy in, noticing how stomach rises and the chest rises, clenching the sphincter muscle, locking the energy in, drawing the energy up the spine, into the crown of your head. Pausing at the top of the inhale. So you're going to check in, you're going to scan your mind. Noticing any thoughts, emotions. Noticing body sensations. Moving on, repeat today's idea. My salvation or my awakening comes from me. It cannot come from anywhere else. This is recognizing that it comes from nothing outside of you. And now review some of the external places where you looked for freedom in the past. In other people, in possessions, money, perhaps, various situations and events, in special relationships, in substances, in self-concepts, says Yeshua, that I sought to make real. So look at all of that. Breathing it all in, breathing spirit into this. I recognize that it is not there, and I tell myself, my freedom cannot come from any of these things. My freedom comes from me and only from me. And you exhale. As you exhale, just blow all of these things out. These are the illusions of the ego, false idols, idle wishes, the world of false expectations, grievances, all of it, just one massive illusion. None of it is true, none of it is real. So you can let go of all of it. Just letting it all go, blowing it all away. Breeze of your breath. And nothingness that it really is. It's going, going, gone. And say to yourself, my freedom cannot come from any of these things. Freedom comes from me and only from me. So now, and try again to reach the light or the true awareness in you, which is where your freedom is. You cannot find it in the clouds that surround the light or pure formless awareness. Imagine that there are these clouds. These are the dark clouds of your expectations and grievances based on an external world. So rising in these clouds just to obscure the light that you are. Don't find it in the clouds that surround the pure formless awareness. And it is in them I've been looking for it. It is not there. It's past the clouds. And the pure formless awareness beyond. Remember that I will have to go through the clouds before I can reach. Tell yourself, I have to go through the clouds before I can reach the pure formless awareness. But remember also that you've never found anything in the cloud patterns you imagined endured. Or that you wanted. Exhale again and just blow these clouds away. The breeze of your breath. They're not real. They're not true at all. She says, since all illusions of salvation have failed you, surely you do not want to remain in the clouds, looking vainly for idols there. Idols are false projections of your mind, of your ego mind. False projections of my separate self. I could so easily walk on into the pure formless awareness. Perfect love, that is real freedom. So try to pass the clouds by whatever means appeals to you. And breathe in the light of pure formless awareness. And think of Yeshua holding your hand, if that's helpful. Just taking you through the clouds. He's saying, come on, there's nothing to be scared of. They're just clouds. Beyond them is the light you've yearned for. And I will take you there. And I'm assured, be assured that this is no idle fantasy. And so you go beyond the clouds, imagining traveling through whatever dark illusions your mind, these false attachments, false beliefs, negative thoughts and emotions spinning around. And so just sink inwards. It's the only place where you'll find your salvation or awakening, within, in your own mind. Find yourself that your salvation or awakening comes from you, and nothing but your own thoughts can hamper your progress. You're free from all external interference. Say, I am in charge of my own awakening. I'm in charge of the awakening of the world. I will say then, my freedom comes from me. Nothing outside of me can hold me back. Within me is the world's freedom and my own. In me is the world's freedom and my own. And so it is. And so just rest here in this deep peace and freedom. Just experience this freedom, this deep peace, stillness. In a few moments. There's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just please relax, be still, surrender into the stillness. Surrender into the oneness, into the light of your true awareness. For the next couple of minutes of deep, connected silence. Any thoughts come up, seemingly disturb us, keep peace and freedom. Just remind yourself that my salvation comes from me. My salvation or awakening comes from me. Nothing outside of me can hold me back. In me is the world's freedom and my own. And just blow it all away. Breathe in the light. True salvation, awakening, freedom. Every pore, every cell, every muscle, body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. And exhale and blow it out. Out the breeze of your breath. And the nothingness that it really is. All the clouds gone and just rest in peace and freedom in the light. Your true awareness for another minute or two of deep silence. And so just coming back gently into an awareness, from this deep awareness into awareness again of the body and the breath, senses and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in. Notice the stomach rising and the chest rising and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clench the sphincter muscle, pause, lock the energy in. Pull the energy up the spine into the crown of your head, pausing at the top of the inhale. And you smile, scan your mind. Some thoughts, emotions, related body sensations. When it feels negative, limiting, contracted, constricting, any darkness, limited awareness, in other words, and you remind yourself that my freedom comes from me. Nothing outside of me can hold me back. Within me is the world's freedom and my own. And exhale the truth of that, blowing out any dark thoughts, dark clouds, leaving you going through those clouds to the light of your true awareness. Rest there for a few moments, the bottom of the exhale. Rest in the still, calm, peaceful state, awareness. And smile. And breathe in again, noticing air flowing into the nostrils, chest and the stomach rising. Notice what you're feeling, your hands touching. There's a subtle flow of air on your skin. Notice that. Notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Noticing all these things from this very still, calm and surrendered state of mind, without illusion, state of mind which only the truth is true. So just connect with this deeper awareness, this freedom, which is your salvation or awakening. Anchor the state in for the rest of the night. It guides you to a deep dreamless sleep and a very peaceful flowing day in the week ahead, which is what I wish for you. So on the count of 3, open your eyes. So it is said, so it is done. Open your eyes and just look around. Take a minute just to ground yourself back into this so-called reality, observing those objects, in the room around you. with detachment, no judgment, just the deep awareness that's underneath these objects, underneath any superficial appearances and judgments, lies this truth of freedom that this lesson spoke of and pointed to. Look at any object, notice that freedom, notice it's there whether you open your eyes, close your eyes, and then open your eyes. Look at another object. And just stay in this awareness, connect to this awareness now. So to stay in this awareness, you can top yourself up with a lesson if you need to. Imagine you're going straight to bed. So that brings us to the end of the meditation and the session. So thanks, Kim. And namaste. All right, so I think Kim might have dropped off. Kim, you still there? All right, so we'll leave it there. Thank you, Kim, and wishing you all the best. If you watched the live stream and you'd like to know more about these sessions, I can get involved. Go to lifepool.com and see the put the link below, and that'll give you more information about you can join the live sessions. You can also get the daily quote and mind training lesson and short breaks and meditation sent to you daily to help you practice that lesson. So check it out at lifepool.com. And I hope to catch you on the inside soon. Thank you, and thanks for listening and watching, and namaste. Which means the freedom in me, free self in me, not as the same free self in you. Wishing you love, peace, joy, and freedom.